Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Art of Creation show. I am Rebecca Boswell, your host and transformational coach for empowered living. And as always, today we're going to be exploring the idea that choice creates, how choice creates, and then a lot of different possibilities for actually creating a life and a living that can work for you, whatever that is. So today's special guest is Manjit Khalsa, and she is the CEO and founder of Shopping for Your Future. So what better way to kick off 2019 than by looking at the future that we're creating, how we can actually shop for it, and how those choices that we're making actually do contribute to going home with some big, nice shopping bags that are full with all the things that we love and that we want to be and have around us. And I wonder if there also might be some things we might want to go and return. So, Manjit, it's so wonderful to have you. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. And I love it, even when you say shopping for your future. It just gives me this whole sensation that I'm in choice, like I'm out and we get to choose. And it really is no different to going out and being in the shops where you're like, do I really want a blue top? Do I really want this to eat? Do I? And it's that question and curiosity of like, what if every moment we're actually shopping for a future based on our choices and based on even the simplest things of where we park our cars and what we choose
Yeah.
to wear that day. Like everything creates a
Yeah.
different shopping experience or a different experience in life.
It's so true. I mean, even just if we look at it from the smallest little example, I mean, if you're not feeling great or, I'm just going to pop out of the house and you run out in your pajamas and, maybe an old pair of tennis shoes and, you go out into the world, you know, sometimes that can create something very different than if even just throw in a pair of yoga pants or, maybe you do put on an outfit or, you choose something different because like, let's say you go out in your pajamas and then you happen to see someone, right? If you're in your pajamas, are you more likely to shy away from that engagement or shy away from that encounter? Or might you act or be a different way than you would be if you were like, yes, I'm here, like ready to be in the world. And so like, yeah, what are we creating with those choices and what is even behind it, right? Like shopping for your future. Sometimes, how often do we just walk past certain stores because we're like, oh, well, I could never afford anything in there, so I might as well just not even go, even if what's in there could potentially be a match to the future that you're creating. And what can you receive from it, even if you don't buy it? So how does all this fit in with what you do? I know you have a big group that you play with constantly, and of course, you work with clients in this area too. But where do you start with people when you begin introducing this idea of shopping for your future, and when you run up against probably a lot of limiting thoughts and beliefs and emotions when people are like, no, really, it's all here. It's your playground.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I think I run into the same problems I run in with myself every day. Even when we get evolved and we become aware that there's an infinite choice, how many of us are actually shopping from an infinite space?
Yeah,
So the things that bump in for me is mainly people getting clear
yeah,
about what they even want. Like that is like probably one of the biggest things. So the idea of like we can just shop for it is a bit lighter than I have to decide, I have to choose like this is the
yeah,
only pathway.
yeah,
Versus, well, what if we're just shopping? What if we
yeah,
could just pretend like we're going to go out and we're going to go out into the world and use the world as a canvas and use the world as our playground to really start exploring? Like, what is it that I want? And it's kind of like you're in the curiosity of it.
yeah,
So for me, like where I start with people is like, well, just inviting them to the concept like the world is your oyster.
yeah,
And the idea of infinite choice is so big, especially if you've been someone who doesn't even know what choice is.
yeah,
Like, are we shopping from a future based on our background? Are we shopping for a future based on what everybody else wants? Are we
Yeah.
shopping based on a future that's going to be super predictable, super safe, and that's the future I want to create. So it's
Yeah.
even looking at like all of that and really stepping into the space of like, well, if I could really have anything,
Yeah.
really, do I
Yeah.
even know what I want?
Yeah. Yeah. Like what's actually driven through like what's me, and not just everything that I've taken on in terms of what I should want or what I should have or how I should project. I love what Debbie's saying here. And she's saying, when she's shopping for her future, it's really about who's in her environment. What are they contributing? What can she contribute to them? And yeah, definitely a note here. When we're talking about shopping for your future, it's like, okay, maybe that includes tangible things, but it also includes things like, what are the experiences that you'd like to create and cultivate? What are the memories that you'd like to relish? What are the energies that you want to be exposed to and surrounded by? And what are you becoming? What would you like to be ultimately? And not like, what do you want to be when you get to be this thing that you're finally gonna be, but like in the moment to moment, the being of living. What is
Yeah.
that like for you? And yeah, is it working what you're choosing now? And if not, go out. If your vegetables are rotten in your crisper and you'd like to make a fresh meal, you go out and you shop for fresh vegetables.
Yeah.
So
Or something
yeah,
completely different. You may
yeah,
shop
that's right. You might
and
not
have
want
someone cook
vegetables.
for you, or you might shop for something completely different. But
That's
what I
right.
love about the future is it's just this real forgiving place. And
Yeah,
it's a space of total, like, nothing is being set. It's
yeah,
this blank canvas.
yeah,
Like a lot of things I know for me, like that was the thing that drives me. I love creating from a space that has nothing in it.
yeah,
It's like this blank room. Your past doesn't affect it.
yeah,
So where you grew up and like all those circumstances, sometimes we put merit on and, you drive ourselves to make choices from. The future is just completely like an open
yeah,
room. It's an open canvas where you're like, wow, there is nothing in there right now. There
yeah,
is no fixed points of views. There is no conclusions in there. There's no predictable reality, really. Even though you think there is, there isn't. One choice can pivot you into a completely different direction.
yeah.
So this idea of like being able to cultivate the life you've always dreamt of, the life you've always known is possible,
Yeah,
it's a beautiful place to start is the future.
yeah,
Because no matter what, at some point you're going to get there. At some point that future's going to be a reality.
yeah. Well, it's here now, and now it's
Exactly.
here, and now it's here, and now
Yeah.
it's here, and in 5 seconds it'll be here again. Oh, there it was.
Yeah, we
Right?
missed
Like,
it. Did we miss it?
right. We
Did
missed
we
the
shop for
future.
did we shop for that? But to starting to shop for like, well, what kind of relationships would I like in my future?
Yeah,
Are you shopping for that? Like, are you shopping for great conversations that inspire you? Are you shopping for a body that's going to last you? I remember like when I started this, I really was, okay, now I'm committing to it. I'm not just doing this for play. Like there's a group out there and how would I like to shop for my future? And like picturing myself at 80, I was like, I want to be one of those 80-year-olds that are on a plane and still speaking in front of audiences and being in the world. And then I was like, well, what choices do I need to make today if that's my future?
yeah,
And it's simple things like, I drove past a Pilates gym and all of a sudden my body's like, that. We're going to require like strength, like muscle strength and bone strength, because all of a sudden this future is exciting. So even though we're shopping for this future at 80, whatever that is, like I still want to be traveling and mobile and healthy and enjoying my body.
yeah,
There's choices we need to start making today that take
yeah.
us to that.
Yeah, that's not something you start choosing on your 79th birthday.
No, well, maybe some people do,
I mean, you
but
can.
yeah,
If you're 79,
totally.
choose it.
Yeah.
But we don't have to wait. It's that thing of like, and it may shift and change. And, I'm sure by the time you get to 79, 80, it's
Yeah.
like, I'm talking 120.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. But it's having that sense of where you're headed without
Yeah,
having it's going to be 80 and I'm going to be flying around the
right.
world and I'm going to be giving speeches. That's
Yeah,
just like one
yeah,
moment of like, well, what would that be like?
yeah. So
And
it's a
what would I,
starting point.
yeah. it is a starting point, and then reverse engineering some of those energies.
Yeah.
So for me, Rebecca, this is how I've always created my life, is like fast forwarding myself somewhere, because fast forwarding was really easy for me because I can see beyond right now.
Yeah.
And the pickle I'm in, or if I've got any conclusions or things just don't feel like they're moving,
Yeah.
if I just fast forward myself even 6 months into the future, a year into the future, a couple of years into the future, everything seems to just appear completely differently.
Yeah.
It's having that
Yeah.
expanded perspective of,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
how else could it show up?
Yeah. And some of
Oh,
that little stuff starts to kind of fall away too as you start to zoom from a broader expanded view. You start to see where, the big pieces, the big pieces are, and they don't get clouded by all the little stuff maybe that's
yeah,
happening right now in your world.
absolutely. And I think it's the little stuff that we actually sweat about a lot more day to
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
And then having that greater perspective or having that bigger
Yeah.
perspective, it really does. It shifts those little things out of the way. And it's things like, the things we don't want to do. I don't know about you,
Yeah.
but the things I don't want to do day to day, it's like, get up early and go for a workout, for example. That's
Yeah.
an obvious one. Or, maybe do those tax bills. Those are some of the things where we're like, oh, it's really not fun. I just want to be playful and a fairy and be out there and be magical. But if you have this bigger picture and this, I'm shopping for a future with money, I'm shopping for a future that has wealth and has riches, then I have to take that class that teaches me about money today,
Yeah.
and I may want to do my books because guess what? I'm somebody who's shopping for a future where I'm wealthy and I'm smart and I'm savvy with cash. Now that is a way sexier future. Like I'm savvy financially is a great future to shop for. And what does that, what choice do you
Yeah.
have to make today? And it might be, well, I'm actually just going to start keeping an eye on what money I've got. How am I spending it?
Yeah.
If I was somebody who was, financially savvy, how would I shop? How would I make my
Yeah.
choices today?
Yeah.
What classes do I need to take? Where do I
Yeah,
need
and what
to?
points of view would shift? Like how often, especially like first of all, I love this shopping analogy because on the one hand, it's very playful, right? It's very playful. On the other hand, shopping, it can bring up a lot of energy and a lot of conclusions and points of view about what we can and cannot have.
Yeah.
And so, it's like, if you're playing for health, longevity, all these things, contributing in the world, and then it's like, and wow, it would actually be really fun to have financial resources to be able to do that all with ease in the world. And then it's like, oh, okay, so where do I actually have to even shop for a different point of view or a different possibility of who I be with money or who I'm being with my financial situation? Is there an area where I might have to step up a little bit? Like having the courage to go into the, I don't know, Louis Vuitton store or some store Prada that you would think like, oh, I wouldn't even feel comfortable walking in there.
Yeah.
Um, so this thing of like, it is a blank canvas. I was just using this analogy actually with a client yesterday, and it's like, every choice is just one more little brush stroke. And you can make any brush strokes wherever and however you want. You could paint over your strokes. Each choice is just adding to that masterpiece. And so if you can just keep choosing, you get so much information. I mean, sometimes you paint a masterpiece and then you find that when it's finished, it's actually meant to be turned completely upside down to be enjoyed. Or you start painting one thing and actually another image starts to emerge that then becomes the ultimate piece. So, this reverse engineering bit, I love that too. And there's just this one little distinction I would offer where, and actually I had this conversation yesterday with a client too. It's like, sometimes we can get so linear about how we want to reverse engineer, and we have to decide like what all the different points are along the way. And it's this really beautiful piece of like reverse engineering, but like with a twist where instead of saying like, I'm going to get here and now I'm going to build this plan for this bridge and it's going to get me here to there. And I'm going to do steps A, B, C, D, and then I'll be on the other side and it's done. Like that's how I'm going to do it. And then you put your head down and you just work, 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 work. Well, it's like, okay, or what if there's something that also allows what shows up in between to contribute to what you're doing from here to there, because what you know and what you perceive when you start the journey may be different than what you can know and perceive as you continue along the way on that journey. So it's like, what if it's more of like following the breadcrumbs, where but because you have a sense of what you're going to and what you're creating, you can actually recognize those breadcrumbs when they show up, where it's like, oh, this is the next piece in that plan.
Yeah.
Even if you don't know exactly what it is in this 10 seconds. And so you're always scanning your environment, always looking, show me. It's like when you're shopping and you walk past something and, the red dress in the window, it just is like, right? Everything stops and like, you have to go in there and try on that dress,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Even if you don't know. And then of course the next day you get invited to something where you're like, oh my gosh, this is what the dress was for. But you followed that and it matched that piece that you're so clear about.
Yeah, because it is just a sense at that point. It is just a sense, and you think it's a picture, and it might start as a picture.
Yeah.
And that's the beautiful thing about being in the question, like asking questions and that playful curiosity. I mean, how many of us, if they're women or men who are watching, if you're shopping for a car or you're shopping for a top, how many times do you go back? Like sometimes when you're like, is this the top I want? Hang on a minute. Well, what if I try the one without sleeves? Or what if I try this? And if you're shopping for a car, you're like, do I want the spoiler on, or do I want those little lights on at the front? Do I want leather seating, or do I want red seating? And then you're really starting to design with the playful energies of what else could it be like?
Yeah.
So for me, I was shopping, if you don't mind me, shall I
continue?
No,
please.
Yeah. So I was shopping for I've been asking for a couple of years now, like, where's home for me? Like, where's the place that's going to nourish me? And where do I go to find this? And what choices do I have to make? And I've been on a bit of a travel spree for almost 18 months.
You're from England, right?
I'm English.
From the UK. And then you just were living in Australia for a good bit.
Yeah.
And now you're back in LA.
Now I'm in LA. So it's like, it was just this shopping spree of, well, where would I like to be? And I did have an idea. I thought it was going to be Sydney. I thought, I'm going to go live in a city now, because I'd been living up in the tropics for so long. And I get to Sydney and I was like, oh, it's not that. That wasn't the energy of where I was like, okay, so where am I going to live? And being in that space, my body and everything around me starts to give me this ripple of this space. So this space also starts to talk to you too, because whatever you're wanting to shop for, or whatever the future is that you're aware of, is also aware of you. It's kind of going over here. Come on. I can't wait to meet you as well. I can't wait for you to get here to this place and this space. So it starts to call and it starts to whisper. And it's those moments when you're like, sometimes it might be bang, there's a red dress, that's where it is. And it's so obvious. And other times it's subtle. And there's a softness in that subtle. It's like a feather touch. And those moments are important to listen to. Because when I got to Sydney, I kept trying to make it fit. I was like, well, this bit works and this bit matches, but it wasn't a fit. It was trying to get a round peg through a square hole. It looked like it was going to fit.
Yeah.
And then I was just here actually to help with a retreat, 4 or 5 months ago. And I was passing through LA. It was never even on my agenda of somewhere where I'd get here and go, oh no, you're kidding me. And literally I was like, oh future, you're kidding me. This is not it. I'm not a city girl. So then I had all of these conclusions about who I was.
Yeah.
I'm not a city person. The city is too big, the traffic, and I had all of this stuff about who I was and where I was supposed to be living, and how this was not the right match. And yet the energy of the future I knew as possible was a complete match. Yeah. So that's when you get this sense. You will have the idea of who you were, because that's the past. Who I was somebody who didn't live in a city, but who am I in the future is undefined.
Yeah.
So then I have to look at that and say, right, well, if I was somebody who lived in a city, how would I like to create it?
Yeah. What would that look like? What could I choose today?
Like? That's right. And all of a sudden I am here and I love being in a city and I love the intensity of how many people, and it's amazing. So
Yeah.
all of that as well, when you're shopping, just realize you're shopping
Yeah.
from probably some bags you picked up from a few other stores that you've had around for a while.
Yeah.
And to sometimes let go of that idea of who we
Yeah.
are can be
Yeah.
quite scary, to then embrace a different version.
Yeah.
And I love your red dress analogy, because you might be somebody who saw the red dress and your whole body's like, oh, that red dress. But if you're like, I'm not somebody who would have anywhere to wear that.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, right now you don't have anywhere to wear that, but you've no idea. You go try that
Yeah.
dress on. You may
Yeah.
end up talking to the manager. You may end up bumping into somebody who becomes a client or a friend, or
Yeah.
you've no idea
Or you
what's
might
actually going
even
to show
just
up.
be more likely to say yes to an event where you could wear the
Absolutely.
dress that you would have never said yes to because you, in your mind, thought, I have nothing to wear. I mean, it just, you never
Well, I
know
didn't have
how
anywhere
it's
to
going to show up.
wear. And I'm not the type of person that wears that red dress. It's one, it's too expensive. Like, there's all of that stuff that
Yeah.
goes on. And
Yeah.
yet, the second you make that choice,
Yeah.
that future consciousness, the universe starts to go, wow, she's saying yes to this. Let me just rearrange some stuff. Hold on a minute. It's like that extra person at dinner. You know, when somebody walks in and your mum sets everything and all the plates are set and there's enough food, and then somebody else walks in, all of a sudden everybody just makes room for that.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. Let's just move this around. Let's just get an extra plate. Let's get some, cutlery for you. Let's get a chair for you. The universe does exactly the same. If you make that choice, it starts to rearrange. So there's room for you in that space as well. There's room for you as somebody who wears that red dress and is taken out. There's room for you to, interact with the world as that person if you choose it.
Yeah.
So exciting.
It's so it's funny because I love playing with analogies anyway. My brain just loves that. And as you're talking, I'm just getting this sense too of, like, you're saying something about you thought you were going to be in Sydney, and like some things were right about it, but not everything. And just made me think of like shopping at Marshall's, right? Where like you find like last year, I don't know, for some reason this is just like burned in my brain, but I found the most perfect Athleta dress. Like, it was the right colors. I loved the cut. It was just, I loved the feel, but it was too big. Like, it didn't fit me. And so I'm there and I'm like, but it's like, I love it. And it's only like $12 and it's like supposed to be 200. And like, it's so perfect, except for that it wasn't, And, there was a point in my life where I probably would have bought it, because I would have been like, well, it's mostly perfect.
Yeah. It's 70% work.
It's mostly perfect. And then, but then I would have worn it and always had that sense that it was 30% not awesome. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just, and then carry that energy with me, which then I'm putting out in the world. So I'm actually creating at a 30% less awesome energetic level, right?
Yeah.
Right. And that's also what I'm putting out. That's what people are perceiving, whether they know what that is or not. I'm hiding myself 30% because there's that 30% that I don't want them to know that my dress isn't right. I mean, it sounds silly and small, but how many of these things do we have that are like, snowballing on themselves, that are constantly running? These programs are constantly running throughout our entire day, sapping all this energy, affecting all the things we're creating and choosing out in the world, and we're not even aware of it, right? And so what if you buy the red dress? And I mean, what would it create, even if you had like 5 things, right? And again, we're not just talking about tangible items, but in this case, even if we're using that analogy, like if you had 5 things that you adored and you wore those over and over every day, like, you still would be functioning and operating and being in the world and becoming something totally different.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that thing of just really, what is the energy, and am I a match to that? Are my choices a match to that? Are the ways that I'm being a match to that? And when you're talking with people about this, and you're talking about perceiving the energy of things, of what you're being, what you're becoming, perceiving the energy of the future, when this is a new conversation for people, how do you help them bridge that gap between just some possibility out there and something that they can actually tap into themselves?
Yeah. So there's a few things. One is like if we go way too far out, it feels like the goal is over there.
Yeah.
Versus, as we know, time is really not linear. It's not really over there. It's right here, right now. So it could be as simple as that red dress. You know, they might be aware of a future where, let me think of an example now. I'm like, what good example could I give you to bridge that gap? Well, I guess he's to start bridging the gap by one, asking a question, like, what kind of a future would I like? And
Yeah.
it could be as simple as, well, I would like to work in a place where everybody's kind to me and I laugh a lot. It could be as simple as that.
Yeah.
And then you get a sense of what that would be like. And that's when things start to show up, because to be that person who
Yeah.
receives kind people and to have people who are kind to you every day and you laugh every day, there may be some upgrades in your own world coming up.
Yeah.
There might be some places where you haven't been willing to even be seen to find kind people. There might be places where, you know, you've got a bit of abuse going on. So therefore, kind people have never shown up. So although it's shopping for a future, everything that you have, that's a limitation. That is a belief pattern. That is a block from you having that future will also show up. So to bridge that gap, like you said, sometimes it's going to look like we have to move things out of the bridge to be able to get over it, fly over it, you know, climb over it, or get some hunky man to carry us over it. Who knows how we're going to get there, but it's going to start showing you everything that's in the way. It's going to start showing you how you need to upgrade yourself.
Yeah.
Because if you have a future that's wealthy, you have a future that's expansive, you have a future where the world is a kind of place.
Yeah.
If that's one of your targets, or you're having a lot more fun, or you're having health,
Or you're wanting
everything.
love and,
Yeah, all
but
of those
feeling
things.
alone. Yeah.
Well, there's all of those things that we've put in place,
Yeah.
from past choices, from who we've decided we are. All that needs to come up too.
Yeah.
And then as you look at that, every time you're like, that's not true. That was
Yeah.
me in the past, this was me in the future.
Yeah.
And of course, there's like deep work to be done. There's an understanding of who you are. Essentially, that's actually driving everything. It's
Yeah.
who you would like to become that's driving everything. You know.
And there is that piece. I'm working with someone who, it's like she just doesn't want to be alone. She has this feeling of loneliness. And then at the same time, when things get too good or a little bit shaky, she tries to push everyone away. And there's that thing of like, okay, so you say that that you don't want to be alone, right? Or you'd like to create being
Beautiful
with
people. Yeah.
beautiful
Yeah.
people, connection, belonging, whatever that is for you with your tribe, finding your tribe or whatever that is. It's like there is, there is inherent in change some discomfort, because you cannot grow without change. And growth by nature can be a little bit uncomfortable. And sometimes we say, I'd like this thing, I'd like to be with my tribe, but then you might have to actually look at, okay, where do I push people away? Or where do I make it difficult for those people who actually do desire to be with me and to connect with me? Where do I, what choices am I making to either facilitate that, or to not facilitate that, or to even destroy that? So sometimes that, shopping, it's like, oh yeah, I'd like to have this, but knowing that sometimes, you see the breadcrumb, but it's on the other side of the chasm, and you have to jump if you actually want to go to that next, to that next phase, or that next growth point, or that next whatever it is.
Change is messy. Change mainly I have seen as messy, and it never looks like it's a straight linear, like I take this, I take this. It's like it's all over the place, and it's messy. It's like it's just actually being in the adventure of life. It's actually being in that space of like, oh my goodness, here we go. I'm
Yeah.
not somebody who's going to stand by and let my life disappear. I'm
Right.
someone who's actively engaged in my future. And yes, it's going to look like I push people away. And that's where we're right in conflict with our future. Even though we say we want it, there's a conflict there.
Yeah.
So to really look at that too, like I'm somebody who's in conflict with my dream. I'm
Yeah.
somebody who's in conflict with everything I say I'd like.
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah. I'd really like this belonging and connection, but at the same time, I'm scared to death about what that could mean.
I'm
Right. So
scared to death people are
then
going to
what does
love
that mean?
me because
Yes.
I spent my whole life proving that they don't.
Right. Right.
So that's
So,
where like your past is like, this space of like, well, obviously that was real. So to let go of what you think is real, to
yeah.
really create something that's unbelievable, incredible, unfathomable, really
Yeah.
has some of those beliefs of where you know, where you think you're functioning from, who you think you are, your identity, a lot of that has to go. And I
Yeah.
think that's the scariest thing about getting over that bridge is
Yeah.
sometimes we have to let go of parts of us that we hold so dear.
Yeah.
And it's those parts of all that we think, well, could it be true as well? Like even those thoughts of like, could it really be that easy for me?
Yeah.
Because what if we're actually more afraid of our dreams coming true
Yeah.
easier than we thought, and we've been making it so hard. I know for me, like
Yeah.
every day I'm like, nope, that's not my reality. My reality is much easier than that. So and
Yeah.
I'm invested in having a
That's so
future
cool.
that's much easier for me. I would like the universe to take care of me. I would like the world to be engaged in my future. And this is another tip I want to say to people who are listening. If you have got a dream and there is a future, try it on with people. Like go out and tell people. So the last few months, probably the last few years, probably forever, I've kind of had this niggly sense that I'm supposed to work with men. I'm supposed to work with men in the coaching industry and really be a space to empower them. And I know this for many, many reasons. Like one is like, when I was a teacher, all my students would always be boys. Even though we worked in a mixed school, my classes always ended up being grade 10 boys, and they're who I would teach. And when I was working at an independent like head office, I would always get sent to the boys' school. That's who really wanted my energy, and that's the school I ended up working with closely, was the all boys school. So there's been these little hints from the future going, hey, this is your brilliance over here, right here. You keep
Yeah.
going over here, but this is your brilliance. Tap, 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 tap. And then I've just been trying it on. So people I meet now, like Uber drivers, people in cafes, they're like, what do you do? And I was like, oh, I'm a men's empowerment coach. And then you get a response like, oh my goodness, that's amazing. And I've had like high fives from men. I've had like a pat on the shoulder. I've had like, let us know if we can help you in any way. This is so required, and so grateful for you, sister. So grateful for you. And it's like, so when you are aware of a whisper from a future, go and try it out on people who don't know
Yeah.
anything different, and try
Yeah.
it on. If you want to be that author, try it on. Like, oh, what is it that you do? Well, I've just published my first book. Just try it on. Like, they don't know any different. And it's like, oh, well, what was it about? And then you get to start talking about this thing that hasn't been created. And I'm not talking about wishful thinking, like, oh, I'm going to pretend that I'm an author, but it's really getting the energy of like,
Yeah.
who would I be?
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden, as I'm announcing myself as a men's coach and these men are responding, guess what starts to happen? My body starts to shift a little differently. I'm starting to get responses from it. There are energies, there's clues, there's information, there's
Lots of
questions
information. Yeah.
that starts to pop for me to then go, oh, wow, yeah, what if I do go to this men's circle over here? What if I do? You know what I mean? Like, what kind of things do people start to give you information about? Because this is the beautiful thing about shopping for your future. It's shopping for you too.
Yeah.
So as soon as you start to put it out in the world and you start to speak about it, you start to engage with that energy, everything that's here to contribute to you having that starts to show up.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one more story. Like when oh, sorry. Did you have another question?
Well, I was just going to ask, because I know you also talk about being the dominant energy in your life, and maybe that weaves into the story that you're about to tell, but I just was hoping you could introduce that idea, and how that applies to this conversation, and how to even tap into what that is.
Yeah, wow. Well, huge conversation. I like that we've started this Oh, like just summarize that, Manjit, in like 2 seconds. Well, my summarized version sounds really easy, but what I have to say, one of the most challenging things on the planet right now is access to the amount of energies that are available. There's access to like everything. We are like this huge Google Drive search engine that walks around the world, and we have access to this information. Now, if you do not know what future you're shooting for, not from a conclusion, but from that sense,
Yeah.
and you don't have a sense of what's important to you, what you value, where you sort of fit into this big puzzle called life, where you fit into this big puzzle called the universe, because we're all like these mini, how can I say, I suppose atoms or molecules that, we're made up of atoms and molecules, which sounds bizarre because we're made up of nothing different to this wall right now. It's so fascinating. And yet we all create these molecules that all sort of interlock, interweb, interconnect to each other. So you're part of whatever we're here to create on a bigger scale. If you don't know what that is, you're going to get lost in this sea of information. You're going to get lost in this sea of all these possibilities. Like, well, what about this future over here? Do you want to come and join an MLM team? Oh, I think it's for you. And you're like, oh, I think it might be. This relationship over here, this is a right relationship for you. This guy is perfect on picture. You should go out with him. He's a hunky football player and he's rich. And guess what? He wants to go out with you. So you're like, okay, why not do that? Versus the energy of like, well, no, what do I value? Who am I in this web of infinite possibilities, infinite energies? What am I here to create? And when you know that, and that could change daily, that's when you can be the dominant energy. Dominating isn't having power over. It's not letting people know I'm here and I'm dominating you. It's actually being a dominant space in your world. So when you walk in, and if you know you're someone who, for example, values kindness, or you value joy or laughter, you take that everywhere.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean you're hysterical in a room, letting everybody know, like, I value laughter. Look at me laughing.
Look at me laughing.
Look. Like, and I value pleasure, and I'm just going to, like, turn on my sexy. No, it's about being that for you in that space of I know who I am, with that confidence, with that being a leader. And then when you walk in the room, people can choose to be that, but you're going to choose to lead with that.
Yeah.
So you're not dominating other people to be that. You're not dominating over things. You're not taking over. There's not a power struggle. You're just sure and self-assured about what you're here to create.
Yeah, you're not diluting what you know and what's important to you in order to make everybody else's thoughts, feelings, emotions, needs, wants, desires bigger than yours.
It's huge. It's a huge topic, this one. Because it's not just shopping for your future. If you're shopping from your future based on what everybody else wants you to shop for, you're going to get lost. And it's going to feel wonky.
Yeah, and you're never going to be
light.
happy. It's never going to be enough because you're trying to get everything from the outside to fill you up inside. And, the irony is that it's a flip, actually, right?
Yeah.
We get fulfilled from the inside and then can enjoy the things on the outside. If we try to do it the other way, it's like we can be right in it. And it's like, it's just not close enough. How do I can't.
Yeah. And that's why
I can't feel
like
it. I can't get to it. Because you're actually not there.
Yeah. Well, you're not in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody else is. You're not in the equation. So that's a huge conversation about, it really takes you down this road of really discovering you and finding you, and not finding you from the sense of I'm going to pack up my bag and I'm going to trek around India, but finding those pieces of you that are gems. Oh, wow. I didn't know I was somebody who was brave enough to catch a flight and come out to LA and trust. I didn't know I was somebody who trusted my future. I didn't know I was somebody who had this backbone. Because it's massive. These energies are huge. Of taking a risk in yourself comes from knowing who you are. And a lot of the times people don't go for that red dress that we talked about because they don't trust that the party's going to be there.
Yeah.
I trust the party's there.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make the choice
Yeah.
to create everything in my world to
Yeah.
have that space be available if I choose it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, the thing is, it may also be that, it shows up totally different.
Oh, it's
But
going to show up so
knowing,
different.
right? But knowing, like, the party might not be there, but knowing that whatever shows up, that you still can tune in to, okay, well, then where are the breadcrumbs?
Yeah.
What is next? It's
Can we have
never,
gold coins instead of breadcrumbs, please? Can we
oh,
be
I love
collecting?
it. Yes.
Can we be
I love
collecting
it.
like the diamond rings as we're like
Yes,
walking?
the
Like,
gold
does it have to
coins.
be? I was like, I
Yeah.
don't know about following a crumb trail. That doesn't excite me. I'm not
That's
interested in that.
I
Somebody
like
else
it. The
could do it.
coins, and every time you get to it, it goes bring.
Yeah, or a
Bring.
gem. Like it might not be a gold
Yes.
coin. It might be,
Oh,
oh
I love it.
gosh, like, there's an emerald right
Yes.
here. Oh, that's right.
Yes. I
Thanks,
love it.
universe. So even
Yes.
asking that, universe, can you absolutely engage with me with this future and show me where the gems are?
Yeah.
Show me how easy it can be, because it's supposed to be ease filled.
Yes.
The struggle and the wonkiness can be the comfort of change, but it can also be, there's still a lightness to it.
Yeah.
There's still an expansion to it, and there's still an adventure to it.
Yeah.
It can be messy and
Oops.
uncomfortable, but there's also like, I know what's at the other side of this.
Yeah, me. I'm on the other side of this. Even if I don't know what's going to show up, I always know that I'm going to be there and that I've got this.
Yeah.
Whatever it
Yeah.
is, I can handle it. I love,
Absolutely.
the Susan Jeffers book. I refer to it all the time. It's this teeny little book, and she just basically says the same thing over and over and over again, which is basically feel the fear and do it anyway. And it's that thing of like, you can handle anything. So just keep choosing, because you're going to be okay. And it's that thing when we think we can't choose because of all these things that could happen that we make bigger than ourselves or bigger than our capacity to create from that place, right? And if we're willing to grow, if we're willing to be, like you said, in curiosity, right? You can never make a mistake, or you can make billions of mistakes, but never be wrong. And it will have never been for nothing if we're always learning something and using that to make our next choice.
Absolutely.
Choice
And
creates.
you don't know. And you don't know you in the future. So yeah, right now, if you're scared, are you scared in 10 years? For this thing you think is scary right now, in 10 years time, it's not going to be scary.
That's right.
10
So
years
why
ago
bother
for me,
being scared now?
So 10 years ago for me, getting on a plane, like being without my family was like the scariest, like it was this huge wall that was like, I don't even know where to start climbing. It was massive, right? Absolutely massive. But I knew in 5 years down the track, or even a month down the track, I am not going to be somebody who's afraid to catch a flight and go to the other side of the world, because I'm going to have done it.
Yeah.
So if you can even just get to know yourself as someone who's not afraid,
Yeah.
guess what? Somewhere down the timeline, I'm not afraid of this thing that's scary right now. So I already know myself as that. So guess what? I'm going to put on my big girl panties, or I'm going to put on my favorite sexy lingerie, and I'm going to give it a go.
Yeah.
Because I know at some point I'm not going to be afraid of this.
Yeah. So I'll just start now.
Yeah, just start now.
Because I already know it's possible.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you'd be surprised of what we're made of. I think most people treat themselves really gently, as though we're like this delicate thing that walks around the world. But we are made up of such good stuff. Most of us who have a journey here, most of us who have ever taken a deep breath or read anything that has us change. If you're somebody who's changed anything in your reality, you are made of some good stuff. You're made of that stuff called strength, of courage, of having the capacity to dream, having the capacity to even perceive that there is a future beyond today. That is some good stuff right there. And even if you're made up of that, you don't even need to really know yourself as anything different other than, gosh, I'm so strong.
Yeah.
Of course I can move to LA on my own, never living in a big city, because I know the universe has my back, and I know the future is like over here, over here. So of course I'm going to bump into that person who's like, there's a room available for you in my house. Come on in. Of course that's going to happen. Of course there's somebody who's got a car that's like, you can borrow this whilst I'm away. Of course, I'm going to start meeting everything that's here to support that. Of course, that's the possibility.
Yeah. That's awesome. And so I want to invite everybody who's watching too. I just keep getting this image of like the old general store. And you'd go in and there's this long counter, right, with the clerk on the other side, and then behind him all these cabinets and jars and little drawers and all these things, right? And you go in and you say, I'd like some of this, I'd like some of that, and they pull out. And
Yeah.
so if you were to go into this, or think of it as an apothecary, and I just keep seeing the drawers with like courage and chutzpah and,
Pleasure.
calm and pleasure and, whatever they are, how fun would it be to just even do that as a little exercise
Yeah.
and,
I'll have a
find
bit
a
of that,
quiet
please.
place. Yes. And just say, yes, a pinch of this,
And a
a
sprinkle
tad
of
of that.
magic, please. A sprinkle of
That's
magic on top of
right.
that. Oh, and can
Right.
we use the gold sparkles for that? Oh, and I
Yes.
really like the purple. Let's mix it up. Let's have a mixed bag of sparkles, please. You know?
Exactly. Exactly. And just start to play with it like that. And then as you go out into your world, really start to notice, where are those gems? What is jumping out at you? What really does get you excited? I mean, if you're visual, it's going to pop. You're going to see it. If you're kinesthetic, it's your body that's going to go, woo, right? If you're auditory, you're going to hear something that, stimulates some new awareness. So whatever it is for you, just being open to that, and then start playing. It's interesting. The more we choose, the better at it we get, and
Absolutely.
we can even have a little fun too. Imagine that. Um,
Yeah, imagine.
so
Imagine having some fun on your
yes,
shopping list for your future. I would like a future that's really fun.
yes, and just like Kelly says, what are the greatest possibilities? And if we're constantly scanning our environment, they will show up. We just need to be willing to open ourselves up to them, and then to receive them and to be grateful when we do. Giovanni just shares, as a little boy, there was a place full of candy where I would go and stand in awe at the counter. Yes. So what if every day we went out and we just stood in awe of everything before us? What would we choose, and what future could we create with that?
I love that because it is an awe-filled universe, and I'm not taking away from there's other stuff that happens,
Yeah.
but it's truly about like what future inspires you. Are you
Yeah.
somebody who wakes up and looks at your life, perceives your life, looks down at your body and go, "Wow, I am an inspiration to me.
Yeah.
I love my life. Like what choices I made are inspiring for me."
Yeah.
And it really takes you away from having, the Joneses syndrome, like where everybody does the same thing and we're all like looking the part and we're playing the
Yeah.
part, but truly knowing who you are in your world and what really inspires you, what really gets that heart ticking, and
Yeah.
what's going to create that life where you're like, damn, I came here to live.
Yeah.
I came here to live, and I lived audaciously. I lived
Yes.
from a space of juiciness, and I lived from this space of really seeing what I'm made of.
Yeah.
Because a lot of us play this little game as though we've got forever, and I really want to say this. And perhaps we have got forever. Those of us who believe we're going to go on and we've got, infinite lifetimes. But guess what? In this body and in this time,
In this
age, and space,
combination.
in this combination, there is only now. There is a limited amount of time in your day. There's a limited amount of time in your week, in your months, and in your years. And there's a limited amount of time, like when you're in your 30s. It's a completely different reality to when you're in your 50s or 60s or 70s. So really take that as a gift, and it is a blessing, and it's not forever. So when are you going to start shopping for that future from the space of like what you would like? Do you want to lay under a palm tree sipping a coconut? Is that your dream? And if it is, like, what are you going to start choosing today to make that a reality for you? If you wake up underneath that palm tree, is that the future that inspires you? If you end up being that author, are you inspired by you? This is not about the other people. It's about
Yeah.
you being inspired by you. So
Yeah.
that's where shopping for your future really started. Was for me, I realized the world is such an inspiration, and yet I was out there being an inspiration. I wasn't really receiving a lot of inspiration. So I thought, I'm going to start having conversations just like with you, just like with
Yeah.
you right now, going to start having conversations that inspire me and rock my world, because I'm
Yeah.
interested in creating and
Yeah.
shopping for a future that's inspiring.
Yeah.
And oh my goodness, I had no idea people wanted to shop for their future. I had no idea people wanted to talk about the same things I was interested in.
Yeah.
Go figure.
Yeah.
So, I just chose something that inspired me.
Yeah.
And you've no idea how many people you then start to inspire because you're inspired.
So tell us a little bit about, you have a couple things coming up, and there are some different ways that people can connect with you and find you after the show. So why don't you give us a little taste so that so that they know, and then we'll also put it in the show notes. So if you don't have anything to write it down with, no worries. You'll have clickable links in the show notes once it goes up to YouTube.
Beautiful. So, one of the things I'm really excited about launching, and it will be February, is a 6-month program called Choosing Love.
Mm.
And it's a heart-centered workshop, and it's really shopping for love, and it's shopping for nurturing, and it's shopping for kindness. And it's a program that we're going to take a deep dive for 6 months, really looking at those spaces where we avoid intimacy, or those
Yeah.
places where we know we'd like something more, but we don't know how to create it. Well, one of my gifts is I'm gonna show you some of those steps, but not steps in terms of do this, do this, do this, but it's more like steps of energetically, let's move all that stuff from the bridge. Let's really look at what's going on. And now let's put some tools in place. Let's put some things in place that allows you to be that person who is nourished, getting love, really stepping into that confidence, like real core confidence. I'm not talking about let's pretend to be confident in our lives. I'm
Yeah.
talking about having the confidence to go for what you want.
Yeah.
With no
Walking
longer
tall,
hiding.
feeling good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really choosing that. And that is going to, be over 6 months. I've got lots of amazing guest speakers. It is for women in this moment. And I've got some great guys who are going to come on and share their wisdom and really facilitate some of these women in the questions that they have in that arena, and really looking at those beautiful intimate relationships. Because for me, one of the most important things I've learned is, like, when we don't have those people to share things with, and we don't have that, the sunset's amazing, but for me, I'm such a people-orientated person. To have that nourishment and that touch, that caring, that kindness, that vulnerability, and to have people around you to share that with, and choosing from a place of love, it makes my life worth living. It makes that future way more exciting. So I'd like to invite people to that.
Excellent. So we will put the link to that, and of course the link to Manjit's website as well. And she's also on Facebook. So all of that will be there for you. And it's been so wonderful talking with you on this topic. So fun, a real juicy episode. Hopefully you guys at home have gotten a lot from it, lots of gems along the way. And if you did like this episode, if you've liked any episodes in the past, if you're creating a future that has more of the Art of Creation show in it, please, please, please subscribe to us on YouTube. Click the little notification bell so that you know when we have a new episode that's been posted. And if you're watching here on Facebook, please turn on the notifications here too and like the page so that you can hop on with us anytime we are live with the amazing guests that grace us with their presence. Just like you, Manjit, it's been absolutely fabulous having you today.
Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, everything she says, share this with your friends. Let's sparkle as many conversations that allow people to step into their potency, allow people to step into their strength, their courage, and let's create a world that is so different to anything we've ever known. I'm game.
I'm on it. I'm on it. I'm out. I'm going shopping. I'm shopping as we speak. So thank you guys for playing along. Please let us know if you have any questions, if you have anyone that you'd like to submit as a possible guest from you. And until next week, I wonder what we'll discover next. Goodbye, everyone.